Dr. Muhammad Rosmizi bin Abdul Rahman from Akidah and Religion Studies Program, Faculty of Leadership and Management, Universiti Sains, Malaysia. The full topic of my presentation today is on the development of the concept of faith and good works in the early Christianity and Islam, a comparative analysis. So this paper is presented in the International Conference on Aqidah, Religions and Social Sciences, Sigma 10. So a brief introduction to this topic. So this paper discusses the development of the concept of faith and good works in early Christianity and Islam. And this is library research using descriptive and content analysis. And in early Christianity and Islam, there were several interpretations that led to controversy, which were either directly or indirectly related to the issue of faith and good works. So this paper found that there were several different interpretations that had been regarded as erroneous or heretical. So such different interpretations were represented by Manichaeanism, Donatism, Pelagianism in early Christianity, and the Kharijites, the Murji'ite, and the Mu'tazilat in early Islam. So the background, Christianity and Islam both requires faith and good works. Or good deeds. Nevertheless, they apply different degrees of emphasis, and they have their own interpretation and controversies related to the issue of faith and good deeds or good works, as well as religious law. So faith and good deeds in Christianity. So the term faith in the Old Testament. Okay, so there is no inclusive verse of the Old Testament which contains a comprehensive injunction to believe, or which offers a comprehensive formal article of faith. Faith is in itself is neither the central theme of the Old Testament nor of Judaism. The primary meaning of faith in the Old Testament refers more to exclusive relationship of trust between Yahweh and Israel rather than faith per se. It's perhaps because the Judaism emphasizes more on good deeds rather than faith. In the New Testament, the term faith appears much more often than the Old Testament. Technically, having faith in Jesus Christ, salvific work, his life, death, and incarnation. That's the meaning of faith in the New Testament, refers to having faith in Jesus Christ, salvific works, his life, death, incarnation, crucifixion, and so on. Now, good works in the Bible, in the Old Testament and the New Testament. So there are great figures of the New Testament, like Jesus, Paul, and James, which have slightly different views on this. Okay, Paul affirms everyone will receive their recompense based on their deeds. James clearly states that good deeds are needed, and Jesus introduced a new approach, okay, which covers both physical and spiritual dimension. So the New Testament and early Christianity, the concept of faith underwent a radical shift in the New Testament as compared to the Old Testament. Faith associated with the exclusive relationship between Yahweh and Israel as the chosen people, symbolized in the form of a covenant, now found a new interpretation in Jesus Christ's salvific work, presented in a series of events of Christ as the Son of God, that is incarnation, crucifixion, resurrection, and ascension. Therefore, in the New Testament, faith is connected more to belief in Christ and his sufficiency and efficacy in man's salvation. Now we go to the alternative interpretation in early Christian traditions. There are several groups, okay? The mainstreams, the main group, main alternative interpretation comes from the Manichaeans, the Donatists, and the Pelagians. The Manichaeans, okay, they are more focused on fatalism. They believe in dualism, evil as substance for them, and they have a negative concept of creation and evils, on negative concept of man's nature as evil, that man came from evil force. The Donatists, they focus more on saintliness or righteousness and merit of ministers, indispensable requirement for the validity of their sacraments. For them, saintliness and righteousness is very, very important, and it's become the requirements, okay, for the validity of the sacraments. So the validity of the work and the worthiness of their ordination and administration depended directly on their works, the position known in Latin as ex opere operantis, from the work of the one doing the working. The Pelagians. So the theology of Pelagius was more human-centered than that of Augustine, giving emphasis to man's ability and merit in attaining righteousness, a purely legalistic stance. Okay, so Pelagians, on the other hand, tried to offer a human-centered theology. Okay, so giving emphasis more on human ability and the merit of humans plays a greater role. We go by detail. Okay, the Manichaeans. So Manichaeans, known as also Manichaeanism was a Gnostic religious movement founded by Mani in the 3rd century. The Manichaeans held a negative concept of man's natures and evil. Many asserted that man has been despoiled and imprisoned with the evil nature of devils. Therefore, man's nature, including the body of flesh, was considered to be evil. Okay, following this idea, the evil nature of man's flesh, many presented strict ways of salvation, namely through rigorous asceticism and a strict performance of certain rituals ceremonies. Therefore, especially for the elect, conjugal intercourse was regarded as improper practice, even they reject marriage and so on. So therefore, good deeds and right living were not really their concern. They focused more on the spirit, because for them, the physical are the evil. Next group, the Donatists. Okay, Donatism was an early Christian movement considered as heretical or as schismatic, especially in North African church. Okay, the Donatist controversy arose from the rigorous persistence in maintaining the need for the holiness and purity of the priest in administering the sacramental rites. The Donatists held fast that the church must be the church of the saints, which was pure and cleansed of sinners. Therefore, they regarded as sinners or apostates and validated their sacramental administration. The position in maintaining the purity and cleanness of the church, the Donatists practiced rebaptism of to the who was considered as traditory or threat to the section of submitting to the emperor authority was a severely detrimental against that they would want to once. The Pelagians, name of the Pelagians, perhaps the most controversial movement. So the Pelagians alleged man can attain righteousness salvation through his own deeds, not through the gift of God grace. Pelagius, so in contrast, that Pelagius advocated a positive view of man and believed that man, by his own effort, was capable of doing good deeds and attaining righteousness. So also, the notion weighted of the human race having been caused by Adam's sin. In his mind, we seem to be another form of negative passive attitude towards man. He worried that this attitude would demolish man's moral freedom of doing his own. Now, going to Islam, faith and good deeds in the Quran first. So the Arabic term faith, Iman, literally faith, belief, creed, so on. The term good deeds or good works, Amal, okay, which is from the root word Amal, doing, acting, action, activities, and etc. So basically, Islam, Iman is simply, Iman means to have faith or to believe in the articles of faith, Islamic article of faith. Good deeds in an Islamic context refers to good works, okay? Good deeds that are recommended, encouraged, and praised by the Sharia. Okay? And this religious, it covers all aspects of life, like ibadah, social activities, ethics, and so on. So there are also alternative interpretation in early Muslim traditions, which we can see from the group known as the Kharidah, the Murji'ite, the for the Kharidah and good deeds are absolutely one entity. Therefore, grave sinner will be considered as unbeliever, because for them, sin will give direct and obliterate one's faith. The Murji'ite, on the other hand, claim that there is no essential relationship between faith and good deeds. All Muslims will absolutely enter paradise regardless of their bad deeds. That is Murji'ite. The Mu'tazilite, on the other hand, which is known as the intermediate position, came here try to mediate the two extreme group. So for them, a grave sinner was neither a believer nor an unbeliever, but was placed in an intermediate position between the two. If he dies unrepentant, he will abide in hell forever. And the other groups, okay, known as the Al-Batinite. Okay, Al-Batinite. Their main teaching and faith is on the Imam, is on the authoritative instruction of the Imam, Iman, the extreme and misleading esoteric interpretation of just beliefs and practices. Okay, the Kharijite. So the Kharijite were among the earliest Islamic sects who addressed the issue of faith and good deeds. They regarded good deeds as an indispensable part of faith, and that both faith and good deeds were absolutely interrelated and cannot be separated, since they believed that deeds will directly affect faith. Therefore, some of them advocated that not only bad deeds could be detrimental, it's dangerous, direct effect, but it could also obliterate faith altogether. From the of them very extreme. Okay. Primarily the Murji'ite maintain that there was no essential relationship and good. They decline to judge people, no matter serious their sins are in this life, but to postpone the judgment and leave it to God alone. They either regarded good deeds as totally different from faith, and that therefore they did not really matter, or that good deeds were perceived to be mere secondary matter that had no relative importance. Okay, because of the above interpretation, the Rahman interpretation from their groups, the majority of the Murji'ans considered good deeds as not essential, and that bad ones did not bring any negative impact to one's faith and status as a believer. The Mu'tazilite. The Mu'tazila attempted to propose a balance between the Kharijite and the Murji'ite. The Mu'tazila advocated that a grave sinner was neither a true believer nor an unbeliever, but was placed in an intermediate position between these two states. However, if the person died unrepentant, he will abide in hell forever. So the majority of the Mu'tazila agree with the Kharijite in maintaining that a sinner was destined to hell forever. However, unlike the Kharijite who declared that a sinner was an unbeliever and could be opposed, the Mu'tazila was still cautious by placing him in the middle state. Okay. On the origin of faith and good deed, unlike the Sunnite who attribute their real source to God, the Mu'tazila argued that it was man himself who created guidance or misguidance, and that man himself who decided and altered his good or bad. And thus, they asserted that man was the creator of his own guidance or misguidance, action, and fate. And they believed that man has absolute capability and free will. In this regard, they were like Qadarites. Now, the Batinites, this is another alternative groups, okay, also known as the Ismaili Shiite or the Ta'limites, okay, also known as the Batinites now. So in relation to good deeds, faith and good deed, the Shiite argue that both should be in accordance to the interpretation of the Imam. Whatever opposes to the teaching of the Imams is regarded as invalid. The Shiite believe that the Imam is the leader of the age, divinely ordained from the Prophet Ali's family's lineage, otherwise known as the Ahlul Bayt. So the Batinite etc. interpretation, okay, the ulama al-Sunnah wal Jama'ah, like Imam Ghazali, observed that the etc. Conceptions were extreme, misleading, and not only were in contradiction to the fundamental teaching of Islam, but indeed destroyed them. Very dangerous. So in summary, not only did the Batinite do not appreciate the normal way of performing good deeds, such as the prescribed devotional acts, but they contradicted and even destroyed them to some extent. For example, the Batinite further claimed that whoever rose to the knowledge of the inner meaning were therefore relieved from prescription and freed from the encumbrances. For them, whoever already achieved certain level, they are free. They do not need to follow the traditional or the teachings, the good deeds like salah, prayers, fasting, and so on. So this is considered as misleading. And there are some ulama, some Muslim scholars already give response, okay, to those different interpretation like Imam Ghazali, okay, or the response or even rejected the doctrines, the teachings, the belief of the Khawarij, the Murji'ite, the Mu'tazila, and other groups. Okay, and you can see from different books written by him, yeah. And the same things also happen to Christian, our Christianity. There were also scholars from their traditions who tried to defend their faith, like Saint Augustine, who already response and even rejected the teachings and belief of the Manichaeans, the Donatists, the Pelagians, and other groups. And he also wrote many books. So a brief comparison or just a conclusion. This paper has briefly discussed the meaning and context of faith and good works in Christian and Islamic perspectives. It delineated their meanings from the relevant scriptures and source of its tradition. The article then discussed some alternative interpretation of faith and good works that were upheld by different groups, which were later considered as erroneous or heretical. These different interpretations came from the Manichaeans, Donatism, and Pelagians in early Christianity, the Kharijat, the Murji'ite, the Mu'tazila in early Islam. All these groups had been regarded as heretical movement. So that's all from me. Thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.